Monkey D. Sabo, or more commonly referred to as the Flame Emperor, is one of the main characters in One Piece. While he's not technically part of Luffy's Straw Hat Pirates, he is considered an important member of the crew, as they are sworn brothers. With Sabo being the chief of staff for the Revolutionary Army, he has an even greater role in the world of One Piece than Luffy does as the second in command of the Revolutionary Army. Sabo is ranked right below Supreme Commander Monkey D. Dragon, and outranked only by him. Sabo's strength should not be underestimated, because if it were not for the timely arrival of Akainu, Sabo would have been able to kill him, and he was already severely weakened from his battle with Luffy. In this video, we're going to take a look at everything you need to know about the Flame Emperor himself, Sabo. As always, this video will contain spoilers for the manga and the anime, so if you haven't caught up yet, then don't say I didn't warn you. Also, in order to fully understand this video, you need to know that there are 4 main factions in the world of One Piece: the world government, the 4 emperors, the Marines, and the underworld. It's very important to understand this, because it will help you better understand Sabo's role in the story. So let's begin with how Sabo became the number 2 of the Revolutionary Army. Sabo was born into the Goa Kingdom's nobility as the son of Outlook III and Dedit. Even though he had a comfortable life as a noble, Sabo despised the way that his family and other nobles treated people beneath their social class, especially when he saw Ace getting beaten up by some punks when he first arrived in Grey Terminal. This ignited Sabo's sense of justice and compassion for those less fortunate. When Sabo was 10 years old, he ran away from home in order to become a pirate and write a book about his adventures. Sabo believed that nobles like his father lived pampered lives and lacked true freedom. Therefore, he wanted to experience what it was like to be a pirate by living among them. During his time as a vagabond, Sabo met both Portgas D and Luffy. The 3 quickly formed a close bond and swore to become stronger together and protect each other. Just a few months after meeting Luffy, Sabo decided to try and leave Grey Terminal with a small boat. He wanted to go as far away from his family as possible. However, just as he was about to set sail, his ship was destroyed by the world noble Saint Jalmak. Although Sabo was saved from Jalmak by the mysterious hooded man, who we now know to be Dragon, he lost his memory in the process. When he awoke, Sabo was found by Dragon, who took him in and raised him as his own son. Although Sabo's memories returned 10 years later, after hearing about Ace's death, he continued to serve Dragon due to his unwavering commitment to his cause. Now you may be wondering, why did Sabo choose to join the Revolutionary Army instead of starting his own pirate crew? Well, it's simple, because the Revolutionary Army is basically the antithesis of the world government, which means that it's completely against everything that Sabo's family believes in. By joining the Revolutionary Army, Sabo can dismantle the system that his family is a part of. Also, in my opinion, Sabo probably realized that with his strength and connections, he could easily become a pirate. But there's a lot less supply and demand for freedom fighters. In terms of strength, Sabo is said to be one of the strongest members of the Revolutionary Army, and he is definitely its most skilled fighter. If it were not for Akainu's arrival, Sabo would have killed him in their fight, despite the fact that Akainu had just finished fighting Luffy, who was clearly stronger than before, and had just used Gear 4. Akainu even states that he would lose to Sabo if he didn't use his magma powers, meaning that Sabo is at least an admiral-level fighter. There are several examples in the manga that prove how strong Sabo actually is. For example, in one of the earlier chapters, we see him knock out dozens of pacifista in a matter of seconds. These robots were built to be stronger than any normal human, and yet, Sabo was able to defeat them without much effort. Not only that, but he also faced off against Fujitora, who is also an admiral, and was able to hold his own against him. And remember, Fujitora is not someone to be messed with. He's one of the strongest characters in the Marines, and he can control gravity. That's not an ability to be taken lightly. But Sabo doesn't just rely on his brute strength in battle. He's also a highly skilled swordsman, and he uses a fighting style called notorious, which means two-sword style. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can Sabo use two swords when he only has one arm? Well, here's how. Remember how I mentioned earlier that Sabo lost his memories after being saved by Dragon? Well, it turns out that he also lost his left arm in that incident. But instead of giving up, Sabo trained his remaining arm until he was able to wield a sword with it. Not only that, but he also developed a technique that allows him to create clones of himself that can fight alongside him in battle. These clones are made out of Sabo's armament haki, and they're extremely powerful. In fact, it's thanks to these clones that Sabo was able to defeat Fujitora in their last encounter. You may be wondering, why hasn't Sabo just grown another arm to replace the one he lost? Well, that's simply because he doesn't need one. Sure, it would make his life easier, but it wouldn't make him any stronger. And that's what Sabo is all about. He wants to become stronger in order to protect the weak and overthrow the corrupt world government. A second arm would just be a bonus. Speaking of devil fruits, you may be wondering, how did Sabo gain the power to control fire? Well, it's because he ate the Mera Mera no Mi, which is the same devil fruit that Ace ate before his death. After Sabo reunited with Luffy, Ace's brother, he inherited his will by eating the Mera Mera no Mi. Not only did this give Sabo the power to control fire, but it also allowed him to use some of Ace's signature attacks, such as his Fire Fist and Fire Jet Pistol. Now you might be wondering, why didn't Sabo just give the fruit to Luffy instead of eating it himself? Well, that's because the will of the previous user of the Mera Mera no Mi is required to pass the ability on to someone else. In other words, Sabo had to eat the fruit in order for Luffy to inherit its powers. Now, you might be wondering, why did Sabo suddenly become important to the plot? Well, it's because during the most recent leveling, he stormed the Holy Land along with several other commanders of the Revolutionary Army and assassinated King Cobra, the King of Alabasta. Of course, this wasn't really Sabo's fault. He was actually framed for the assassination by Blackbeard. You see, Blackbeard wanted to start a war between the world government and the Revolutionary Army. So he killed Cobra and placed the blame on Sabo. The reason why he chose Sabo is because he knew that it would be almost impossible for the Marines to capture him alive since he is so strong. Blackbeard was hoping that Sabo would start a rebellion against the world government, which would lead to a full-scale war. And so far, his plan is working perfectly. After hearing about Cobra's death, multiple rebellions have broken out across the world. The people are tired of being oppressed by the world government, and they are finally ready to fight back. This is exactly what Blackbeard wanted. He's using the chaos to his advantage, as he's currently sailing towards Laugh-Tale, the final island of the Grand Line, in order to become the Pirate King. Sabo, on the other hand, is currently wanted by the world government for the assassination of King Cobra. He's now one of the most wanted criminals in the world, and the Marines are after him. However, Sabo doesn't seem to care. He's willing to do whatever it takes to bring down the world government and create a world where everyone is free. And that's everything you need to know about the Flame Emperor Sabo. Do you think Sabo is strong enough to defeat Akainu? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.